Jon Stewart is a legend. He is a great man. The Daily Show is fantastic. On The Daily Show, Jon Stewart gave praise to Project Veritas on more than one occasion. Jon Stewart was more than just a partisan. Though he does have a liberal bias, he was fair. Well, Jon Stewart left The Daily Show, and he's had some appearances every so often. One of the most admirable and notable is his consistent fight for the first responders on 9/11. And he's even praised Donald Trump for Trump's support of many of these individuals, albeit Jon Stewart is not a big fan of Donald Trump. Well, now, Jon Stewart is sending shockwaves across the left by coming out on Colbert's show, Stephen Colbert's show, saying that lab leak hypothesis is the most likely. And Colbert tries desperately to walk things back, but Jon Stewart ain't having none of it. Even getting up from his chair, walking up to the camera and getting his face right in the camera and being like, I've been so alone for so long. Here's what I think. Jon Stewart caught in a time warp. You see, when he left, things were different. Harambe was still alive. We still had some semblance of what left and right meant. And Jon Stewart left. He quit the show. He was not very much involved in politics, a little bit. And now he doesn't realize, I think, much like many of these liberals, how much the mainstream left has changed, how much they're broken. Jon Stewart lays it out very perfectly on Colbert's show. You have a novel coronavirus appearing in a city next to an institute for virology that experiments on novel coronavirus. Come on. Well, Jon Stewart mocks this. Colbert then tries coming out saying, maybe the lab's there because of all the bats. Colbert, ain't no bats there. The bats they were doing experiments on came from hundreds of miles away. Of course, the left is outraged. So let's see exactly what they're saying and what's going on now with the latest COVID news. My friends, the first article for timcast.com reports Jon Stewart shocks Stephen Colbert in rant about a lab leak being the most rational explanation for COVID. And in case you didn't figure it out, Cassandra Fairbanks, you know her, you love her. She is going to be running the newsroom as editor-in-chief for timcast.com. We are already talking to many more reporters in the area about bringing them on. It is a bit preliminary. I'll just stress this right now. I know we got news to read. It's the first article. Website still has a bunch of formatting issues. But you know what? You always just got to get started. The new design, the new technology that we're putting behind this that will be developed and launched in the next few weeks, it's coming in the next few weeks, like I said. And for the time being, we're going to start putting out articles and we're going to get the ball rolling. Cassandra writes, Monday evening's episode of Stephen Colbert's A Late Show caused fireworks across social media. As his guest, Jon Stewart mocked people who wrote off the possibility that COVID-19 originated in a Wuhan lab. The episode was Colbert's first time hosting the show before a live studio audience since the start of the pandemic, and everyone in the audience was required to be fully vaccinated. Creepy. The interview began lightheartedly, as Stewart joked about how people did not properly care for themselves during the pandemic, saying, I am so really happy. And I know we're all vaccinated and I'm not going to get COVID, but I'm going to get something. These people did not take good care of themselves during the pandemic. And you know what? Jon Stewart calling it like it is. People were sitting in their cubicle apartments, not exercising, not getting sunlight, not taking vitamins, withering away. It's horrifying. The interview took a turn when Colbert asked Stewart for his feelings on the scientific response to COVID. Quote, so I will say this, and I honestly mean this. I think we owe a great debt of gratitude to science. Science has in many ways helped ease the suffering of this pandemic, which was more than likely caused by science. Ooh, spicy. Looking a bit stunned, Colbert asked if he meant there's a chance that this was created in a lab. A chance, Stewart asked. Oh my God, there's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do we do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan novel respiratory coronavirus lab. The disease is the same name as the lab. That's just a little too weird. Correction, Mr. Stewart. That's not true. It's the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, there may be a specific lab within the building that is the novel coronavirus lab. So I'll give him that much. The lab itself, the main building where they think it came from, was not specifically that, or at least it's not being reported as that. But maybe he knows more than I do. Stewart went on to mock the alternate theories about how the outbreak began. A pangolin kissed a turtle, Stewart remarked. Alternatively, he joked, maybe a blat flew into the cloaca of a turkey and then sneezed into my chili. And now we all have coronavirus. Colbert tried multiple times to take back control of the conversation to no avail. Instead, Stewart went on to offer an analogy. There's been an outbreak of chocolatey goodness near Hershey, Pennsylvania. What do you think happened? I don't know. Maybe a steam shovel made it with a cocoa bean. Or it's the effing chocolate factory, Stewart said. Colbert pushed back on Stewart's take, arguing it could be possible that they have the lab in Wuhan to study the novel coronavirus diseases, because in Wuhan, there are a lot of coronavirus diseases because of the bat population there. Wrong. The bats that were brought into Wuhan were brought in from far away and don't live there. Wrong, Colbert. Stewart continued to mock the official narratives and explanations before Colbert finally interjected, asking, how long have you worked for Senator Ron Johnson? And there it is. Colbert is bad at his job. I'm being nice right now. Stewart is a good guy. Worked for Senator Ron Johnson. Perhaps reality has a right-wing bias. Yes, remember that famous line from Colbert? Reality has a liberal bias. Maybe when Jon Stewart was around, when Jon Stewart was like, look at the great journalism from Project Veritas. Maybe when Jon Stewart was around and poked fun at Barack Obama and Fox and just called it like it was. You might not like his political opinions, but the dude was honest. Not perfect. Not always. Where are we now? Colbert just makes stuff up. Colbert lies. This is not a conspiracy, Stewart insisted. But this is the problem with science. Science is incredible, but they don't know when to stop. And no one in the room with those cats ever goes, I don't know if we should do that. That was an amazing line from Stewart. They're like, curiosity killed the cat, so let's kill 10,000 cats to find out why. Finally, Stewart walked to the edge of the set and spoke directly into the camera. I have been alone so long. And when I realized the laboratory was having the same name, first name and last name, of the evil that has been plaguing us, I thought to myself, that's effed up. Stewart did not let up, even after the commercial break, adding, can I say this about scientists? I love them, and they do such good work, but they are going to kill us all. The explosive segment immediately went viral with people on the right cheering for Stewart and the left expressing disappointment in some cases and extreme anger in others. They've lost it. And I can tell you why. It's a generational thing. My friends, I'm 35. I'm an old man. I remember watching Colbert when I was like in my late teens and throughout my 20s. And Colbert was the guy speaking truth to power. Now you have this younger generation raised on garbage, rage bait trash. Isn't it funny that Jon Stewart's opinions often align with mine? Because I grew up watching Jon Stewart. Many of us who watch Jon Stewart, many commentators, many pundits, many YouTubers have been heavily influenced by Jon Stewart and share many opinions with him. The left changed, man. I didn't leave the left left me. That's the saying, right? Here's a quote. Online leftists seem big mad at Jon Stewart for treating the lab leak theory as very plausible. Of course it is, on Colbert tonight. They're deeply committed to the conspiracy theory line and notion that speaking critically about CCP puts Asian Americans in danger. Town Hall's Republican political editor Guy Benson remarked. Meanwhile, leftist Canada Land editor Jonathan Goldsby tweeted, on the first Late Show back with a full audience, Jon Stewart dives intensely down the COVID lab leak rabbit hole, rebuffing Colbert's repeated efforts to save him from himself. From himself, really? U.S. intelligence, the Secretary of State, officials at NIH, U.S. senators, a president, all crazy conspiracy theorists, Spectator contributor Stephen L. Miller wrote. Jon Stewart, now we have to believe, so S word, now we have to believe the lab leak. Isn't that really weird? Kind of horrifying that we've been talking about this for some time. It's been growing in plausibility. We have been threatened with being banned and censored for getting anywhere near this conversation. Oh, now it's mainstream. To be fair, while Jon Stewart can push it mainstream, when you can look over at YouTube at the actual video and see how much people really like the video, because usually on YouTube, conservatives, people on the right, and people who hate fake news, they'll downvote fake news, like Colbert. This one, overwhelmingly thumbs up. But isn't it crazy now? Jon Stewart, they might actually throw him out. They don't know what to do with people like Jon Stewart and Bill Maher. From Vulture, they write, Jon Stewart wants you to stop with the logic and accept his lab leak theory. Maybe Jon Stewart's going to get a dose of reality on this one. He has been alone for some time. They think that they can bring back Jon Stewart because he's a hero of the left, but the left isn't the left anymore. Jon Stewart was a legit liberal. Not whatever we got in its place. A skin suit being worn by woke lunatics. Jon Stewart doesn't fit in there. Neither does Bill Maher. Bill Maher came out ragging on college. He was like, I'm not paying for your college. You want debt paid off from the government? I'm not going to pay for that. And people on the left say he's right wing, he's far right, he's alt right. Is Jon Stewart now alt right? Yeah. Of course they're going to say something stupid like that. Jon Stewart doesn't realize that while he was away, the sides shifted, and where he's standing right now makes no sense for who he is. But they want to prop him up because he's some hero of liberals in this country, even though they hate his guts. They completely despise what he stands for and what he believes in. There were some other people, I'm not going to name them, but there were some people who were in prison who didn't realize what the left had become, and they get out, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, what is this? That's right. The left has gone insane. Leftists that I knew, hackers, anti-government extremist types, hate the government, pro-FBI right now. Why is Vulture ragging on Jon Stewart? Well, it's a culture shift. Jon Stewart is a man of an older generation now. You see how it goes. I'm 35. I joke. I get it. I'm not that old. But I grew up watching Jon Stewart and Colbert. Colbert changed to fit the mainstream establishment and to adapt to a younger audience. A younger audience that doesn't know the horrors of the Barack Obama administration, doesn't know about the drone killings, the increase in war, Wall Street crisis, all these things, financial crisis, spying. They don't know anything about it. Colbert has to pander to them. Jon Stewart represents something else. Now, if Stewart remained in public life and working and hosting the show, I wonder if a lot of this would have happened, because he was essentially like a stake in the ground holding the tent, stopping it from flying away. And when he left, so left honesty on these shows. All of a sudden now, huge fans of Jon Stewart who supported Occupy Wall Street find themselves wearing MAGA hats. No joke. Why? Well, they believe in the same things that Jon Stewart believes in for the most part. Even Michael Moore clearly articulated why people would be voting for Donald Trump. And now what do we get? Well, the whole thing is just outright silly. Here's David Gorski, MD, PhD, surgeon and scientist, says, well, crap. It appears Jon Stewart is now all in on the lab leak conspiracy theory. If his appearance on Colbert show is any indication. Someone said, I got the feeling he was being facetious. And Gorski says, I didn't. At least I wasn't sure. And that's bad enough. It reminded me of his old Glenn Beck bit, just not funny or clever. I'd like to summarize the Jon Stewart joke, because it is basically the bit I did last week. You come to me and tell me there's a virus coming from a block away, or like a block or so from a lab that researches viruses. And I'm going to say, I think that's a possibility. If you come to me with only the information that says, here's a virus in this area, I'm not going to immediately assume the biosecurity level 4 facility is where it leaked from, because it's biosecurity level 4. But when you find out bats and pangolins weren't even sold at the Wuhan wet market, when you're told that the bats were brought in from hundreds of miles away to the lab, when you see the emails, that preliminary inquiry from Fauci himself seemed to show there's a potential that this was engineered, the evidence starts stacking up for lab leak. I'm not saying I know it's true. I honestly don't. But when you stack all these things up, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's the hypothesis. It's a lab leak hypothesis or lab leak theory or whatever. What's the conspiracy, though? Is the conspiracy theory that the Chinese government lied to us? How is that a conspiracy theory? That's a conspiracy fact. We know the Chinese government's lying to us all the time. So what? What's the conspiracy? Why should we believe China? They don't want to take responsibility for this. Of course, across the board, the left, they come in for Jon Stewart. The Late Show viewers call out Jon Stewart for peddling harmful lab leak coronavirus theory. That was painful to watch, said one viewer. Brad Johnson says, wow, didn't expect Jon Stewart borderline meltdown and dangerously misinformed attack on science. I guess we are back. What does that mean? One person says, Jon Stewart was one of my idols until tonight. He's giving credibility to the Wuhan lab leak conspiracy and spreading dangerous lies. At least Trevor Noah isn't afraid to speak the truth. That's a funny tweet. Trevor Noah is absolutely afraid to speak the truth. It's why he regurgitates mainstream establishment talking points. Jon Stewart's the guy who says whatever he wants to say. Jon Stewart, I'd love to have you on my show. Big fan, by the way. Here we go. This guy, Justin Boyle, says, holy crap, that is some seriously irresponsible fear-mongering and misinformation being spewed by Jon Stewart. It's a shame they aired this. Stephen at home has been pretty responsibly covering COVID, but that changed this interview. I got a question. Are all these people working for China? In one clip, John Lefavre, a Twitter user, says, questioning follow the science isn't an attack on science, it's defending science. One guy says, F Jon Stewart, the Daily Show sucked with him on it. Here's one. This guy says, congratulations, but what on earth happened to Jon Stewart? And no, the name of the lab is not the same as the disease. Stephen is correct that the lab has come to specialize in bat viruses because it's located near the epicenter of SARS, not the reverse. The bat virus came from hundreds of miles away. They built a lab. They brought bats in. It doesn't matter why they built it. It doesn't matter if there is SARS there. It matters that the specific virus they found, according to the research we have now, came from bats that are very, very far away. That's why they were saying the whole time, maybe it was brought into the wet market. New reporting, I think The Guardian says this, that they weren't even selling bats or pangolins at the wet market. At least no evidence suggests it. Eric Weinstein says, when a scientist says what Jon Stewart says here, before Jon Stewart says it, they can be thrown off Twitter or throttled for racism. But when Jon Stewart says it, it's mainstream. Remember that. Remember this the next time we are told an inconvenient voice is a crank. He goes on to say, Stephen at home is shocked. Shocked. Why? Because maybe it is finally time to reveal that 1 + 1 is 2. Men and women are different, and the Wuhan Institute of Virology is the prime suspect rather than a pangolin banging a bat in a wet market. Still too soon? Got it. Too soon. Eva Lavia says, so where does this leave us next time? Will scientists self-censor to avoid scrutiny? Or are more people now awake and will want to have access to all professional opinions? Hopefully the latter. I hope. How amazing would it be if what Jon Stewart just did smacks people in the face and says, get out of the cult, you weirdo. I hope so. Maybe not. You see, the people I know who were fans of Jon Stewart are not leftists anymore. This is the amazing thing. I'll say this to John, and I'll say this to Bill. Jon Stewart, Bill Maher, hear me out. I grew up watching both of your shows. Big fan. The people I grew up with who watched your shows don't vote Democrat anymore. I don't know what you do with that information. Maybe you go and cater to some Republicans, but the Republicans, the conservatives, still very different from my political positions, but we agree on reality. So when you have a left that is taken over by a cult, that hates science but pretends they like science, that supports racism while claiming to oppose racism, what do? This is demonic. It is truly something evil that will harm people, cause loss of life. What do you do? Now, I don't know if lab leak is real. I'm not saying it is. This is Jon Stewart coming out and pushing it. I'm saying right now, according to all these different articles, seems to be extremely plausible. Seems to be the main culprit. But you show me the evidence, I'll believe it. For the time being, it's very circumstantial. The best we can do is adjudicate and then decide this is where we land because it's the best we can do. I don't know. I will say I'm not familiar with the name, though. So the Wuhan Institute of Virology, Chinese Academy of Sciences, they may have a lab specifically in it that's called, the respiratory lab or whatever. I don't know where he's getting that information. I searched for it. I didn't find any of that. So I don't want to assert that I know for sure. There may be a specific lab inside the Wuhan Institute. I could be wrong about that. Jon Stewart, however, is not a stranger to defending Trump supporters. And this is why I've always liked the man. In 2016, he says that Trump supporters shouldn't be defined by the worst of his rhetoric. Jon Stewart also defended Donald Trump to a degree when he said that Trump was actually doing a good job for 9/11 first responders. I think Jon Stewart is a man of principle. And I think that, back in his day, when he was doing his show, it was legitimate. The honest, rational, thought, critical thinkers were standing by him because we understood. Now those people are long gone. I don't know where they are, to be honest. The people I know, the older people, my friend's family, they don't watch Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah lies all the time. They don't watch Colbert. Colbert lies all the time. Jon Stewart's gone. They don't watch that anymore. They probably watch Tucker Carlson, to be completely honest. I wonder how many of you comment. Did you used to watch The Daily Show back in the day? I know a lot of conservatives didn't, but they're certainly willing to take any allies they can right now. Man, I miss those days. But maybe that's something that we always say every generation, that the previous generation was better or whatever. Jon Stewart's getting on. He quit. Stephen Colbert was not that great. His show was fun, but not that great. And what they did was, after Jon Stewart left, they cookie cutter created a bunch of crap versions of the same trash. It's a generation shift. Young people don't know what it was like. They don't know what honesty is. They don't know what integrity is. They were 10 years old. You got people right now who are 13 when Jon Stewart was doing his show, and they don't know anything about it. Me, I was entering adulthood. I was in my late teens, early 20s watching Jon Stewart. I was 25 watching Jon Stewart. Now I'm 35. Jon Stewart's been gone for a long time. And what? These kids who were 14, 15 when he quit, now in their late 20s, they have no idea what he represents. They have no idea what's true. And if they want to fit in, they'll just regurgitate the lies from people like Colbert. It was sad and silly to see Colbert trying to walk things back. It was pathetic. John, you're great. Colbert, not so much. And Trevor Noah and John Oliver and all this trash that was spawned from The Daily Show. It's garbage. Jon Stewart needs to make a comeback. I wish. I'll leave it there. Make sure you go and check out the article. Link is in the description below. We're going to have a bunch of more articles up at timcast.com. We've so far we just got Cassandra, but we're going to be hiring a bunch more people, expanding the newsroom. We're going to be doing real reporting. We're going to be hiring just outright someone who does fact checking. And that'll be their job. And we got plans for how we're going to make this better than anything else. One of the things I want to do is, you can see in the article by Cassandra, she actually has citations from other outlets. You know, you've got individuals and opinions. I would love to have our fact checker look at this article and then actually create a list of like, here's all the articles we've seen, you know, here's the bias rating, and here's where we saw that some of these articles were not true and correct. It'll be a difficult job, but I want to do fact checking. I want to call them out. Go to timcast.com, become a member, share the article. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/timcast.